So now we'll talk about law enforcement liaison and like a relationship between agents and police, or how that interface needs to happen. So there are a few different circumstances where that will need to take place. You have a trespasser, I think I mentioned earlier. You will call law enforcement right away. You'll have to give them a description, direction of travel, that type of thing. Or if you had to detain the person, have them come effect the arrest. So there are ways to do that, but obviously you need to know how to articulate what happened, what you did, why you did it, and what you need from law enforcement. Now, the political climate, specifically in LA, has changed recently in the last few years. And as far as district attorneys, they do not like to prosecute on anything. So whereas I've had DAs in meetings tell me, I'm going to throw the book at this guy, but I need you to give me what I need, it's completely reversed now. So there are even assaults on peace officers that they won't file on now. So that is unheard of. So for example, we had a stalker with 10 years of sex crimes, being in and out of jail, trespass on a client's property on Christmas Day of all days. I had to respond to that. We didn't get a hold of the guy. He was gone by the time we got there. But we had to interface with law enforcement and the detectives on the liaison, because the guy made it into the house. Nobody was working it at that time because nobody was there. We got to give video footage, like there's a number of things. We got to do a full report internally and then hand that off so we can help law enforcement as much as possible with doing their investigation and pursuing this guy. He eventually got caught and extradited on an unrelated charge back to, I think it was Oklahoma or something like that. Anyway, but those are a few different examples. Now, if we get a new account in a new city and we have armed guys working the property, specifically some properties, they'll have you sit in your car outside on the street. Not our ideal setup, but it is what it is sometimes. We will call the local watch commander, who's the guy that runs the shift in the department. Say, hey, this is who we are, this is our company. We can give you our licensing information, all that if you need, but we're operating in this area, our guys are armed. This is the vehicle, this is the guy's name, if they want all that information. But just so you know, we'll be here. And they'll say, okay, good, we'll give you a couple drive-bys if we can. And it kind of builds that relationship. So when something goes wrong and you call them, it's not a brand new call. You're who, doing what, where? Still might be that, depending on if they turn it over to each other on shift changes, but at least they have some familiarity with you and they can help you with whatever you need. Here's another example of how we'll involve ourselves with law enforcement, called building a file. So a guy trespasses. You would like to get him charged with trespassing if you can. Depending on the circumstances, you may get helped with that. For example, trespasser came onto a property at night, ended up in the house, the whole thing, and they filed on it immediately because it was the middle of the night. They called the judge at 2 o'clock in the morning and got an emergency restraining order. We like that, right? Now there's a paper trail. We have a trespass charge and a police report on it, and we have an emergency restraining order. That goes into a file, right? Which builds a case against this individual. And depending on how much of a threat that you need that. So for example, where we've had a guy with 10 years of sex crimes, very legitimate threat to this principal, nobody would file on him, or the DAs didn't want to prosecute. He got extradited on something else. We didn't catch him there, so we didn't have a trespass on the guy. We didn't have anything in a new unit at a time. So even though he has a bad background, like, you have to build a case from when things happen. So it's not just letting people go necessarily. You want to press charges as much as you can and as much as the client will let you, but you want to build that file. Your internal incident reports are all good, but any kind of legal document is what's going to matter as far as a trespass or what have you. So those are some general examples of our law enforcement liaison activities.